Here's one from Aetius Secularus, or Secularus. And he says this: the evidence of Mecca being Petra is compelling. However, there is also a major problem with the claim that the Abbasids pointed the Qibla to Mecca from Petra under the Umayyads. The reason is that Abd al Rahman, who is Abd al Malik's grandson, moved to Andalus in Spain and also defeated Abbasid attacks in North Africa. The Umayyad dynasty continued until the 11th century. No Abbasid army ever set foot in Andalus. And for those who don't know, Andalus would be Spain. On top of that, Abd al Rahman I and his famous successor Abd al Rahman III still made pilgrimages to Mecca and had their Qiblas pointing there. Why would the Umayyads still point their mosques to Mecca and do pilgrimage there if it was originally Petra? Why would Abd al Rahman I continue to promote Mecca as a holy place after the Abbasids murdered his family? This doesn't make sense if the Umayyads revered Petra originally. Well, let me answer that. And to answer that, you need to look at Gibson's work. You need to go back to his book. This book right here, put out in 2017. Gibson does answer this point very quickly. And he says, when you look at all of the Umayyad Qiblas, now the Umayyad Qiblas start from 660 up until 749. The Umayyads come to power in 650, 661 with Muawiyah, and all the way up until 749. So you're talking about the mid-8th century, roughly 100, really 90 years, but almost 100 years. Look at all their mosques, and when you look at all their mosques, you will see that none of the earliest mosques are even in North Africa. You can't find any earliest mosques from the 7th century in North Africa. They don't begin to appear until the 8th century in North Africa or Al-Andalus, which would be Spain. Gibson makes that very clear. And what's curious is when you start to see them appearing, let me just give you the first one. The earliest Umayyad mosque in North Africa was the Jami al-Zaytuna Mosque. Here, I'm going to give you a picture of it. The Jami al-Zaytuna Mosque, which is built in Tunisia. Look at the date, 732. That's well into the 8th century. Okay, not 7th century. So this is almost towards the end of the Umayyad dynasty. The Umayyad dynasty is only going to last for another 15 years. Out of the almost 100 years that they were in power, this is right towards the end of their diminishing now. They are now losing power, and the Abbasids are gaining power. So when you start seeing these mosques appear in North Africa and up in Spain, you can see what's going on. Because those mosques, the Qiblas, are not facing Petra, nor are they facing Mecca. They're not facing either. So what are they doing? They're almost facing directly south. But what Gibson found is when you look at what they were looking at, because there's nothing south there to face. Just Africa. What's there in Africa for a Muslim or any? There's no sanctuary down there. And if you look all across North Africa, you see they're all facing pretty much the same way. But when you put a line between Petra and Mecca, you then find that they are parallel to that line. Parallel to the line between Petra and Mecca. It looks like this is a political statement. It looks like what they're doing, those mosques are waiting to see who was going to win this battle. They did not want to have their Qiblas facing either Mecca or Petra. The Petra mosque would be the sanctuary for the Umayyads. The Meccan mosque would be the sanctuary for the up-and-coming Abbasids. But the Abbasids were way up in what is today Baghdad. Back then it would have been called Ctesiphon, and so they did not want to face either one of those directions. So they made their mosque parallel to both those directions to show that they were not giving allegiance to either one of those two powers, waiting to see who was going to win. And we do know who did win. It was the Abbasids who finally won out. In 749, they defeated the Umayyads, they took it over, and then they just started constructing all their mosques to face uniquely Mecca, which they have been doing ever since. So from the time of the Abbasids, all the mosques then, it took them about another 50 to 60, almost 70 years before they finally got all the mosques facing towards Mecca. So this is a political statement. Therefore, it's quite understandable why you would have these, Abd al Rahman I and also Abd al Rahman III still doing pilgrimages. At that time, they were starting to do pilgrimages down towards Mecca, but they were very careful not to have their mosques facing there, so that they would not in that way either be giving allegiance to either one of the two parties. Okay, this is a political statement. It's a theological statement covered and bodied given body, and you might say given its authority with a political exigency. This is political exigency. People do it all the time. I hope that helps. These have been great questions. Keep them coming. If I see really good ones that need to be answered, or ones that are confusing an awful lot of people, I'll work on it and get it to you. Okay, this is Jay here in my office. God bless you. Over and out.